Tom Clark's Main Event is a Boink Studios production. Follow us on Twitter at Boink Studios and check out our Facebook page where you can see all of our projects, past, present, and future. And now, on with the show.
This is Daddy's show. Step off.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and you are listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. This is episode number 60 of the podcast, and if you're joining us today for the very first time, we will bid you welcome. If you're coming back for a repeat visit, we say, hey, thanks for checking back in with us. And to all those involved, we will extend to you, as always, the customary laurel and a hearty handshake. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading. Thanks for supporting. And hey, thanks for always being there, Doc. Episode number 60. It's cool, right? I got to tell you, man, I'm pretty happy about this. If you can tell the difference between the sound of this episode and the last couple, I think the last two, maybe, perhaps, and the last one for sure. Yes, folks, we are back in the studio. Aren't you happy? Because in one of our other podcasts, Tom Clark's 30-Minute Fun Show, we've only been in the studio for episode 1. The other 8 episodes were all done on the road. So, you know, the joke is on that show has been we should change the name to Tom Clark's 30-Minute Road Show. So the main event is back in the studio today. Aren't you happy? Doesn't it sound better? Hopefully the other shows don't sound bad. It's just you don't have to worry about, you know, revving engines and motorcycles and horns and crazy rednecks that can't drive because that's sort of my existence every day of the week, twice on Sunday. So, yeah, hey, what's up? Welcome back to the show. Glad you are with us. This episode is very important to me. And no, I don't have any great big name guest stars. It's just the one-man show as always. But it's very important to me because it's 60 episodes. We've been going strong for 2 years, and I'm pretty darn happy about that. So, you know, I'm kind of speechless about the whole thing. If I'm being honest with you, I started this just to be a hobby. I thought, you know, I'm doing the writing, I'm doing, you know, Facebook stuff and tweeting, and Cal and I are trying to get Boink Studios up off the ground, and I thought, what better way to, you know, get another platform and get your name out there a little bit more than before than by doing a podcast. And I researched it for months, looked into what equipment would be the best equipment and the most affordable to use that would sound good, of course, and did some research into who I should use to get the podcast, actually get the show going, and, you know, monthly storage and the music for the show. And I knew I wanted original music, and which I got, and I'm very happy about. And, you know, I just wanted this to be sort of a personal project of mine that hopefully folks would, you know, come on board and go along for the ride. And so far, you guys have. So I've thanked you a bunch. I'm going to thank you again. I'll probably thank you again before the show is over. But thanks, man. It means a lot. I continue to get feedback, positive feedback, emails. I get messages, and I do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to us here at Boink Studios. So, as always, thanks again for your patronage. Thanks for your business. It means a lot to us. So, this show is free. You should know that if you subscribed and downloaded. If all you've done was hit the play button on Facebook, please go subscribe and download on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Android, Windows Phone. You can also see it or listen to it online, tomclarksmainevent.libsyn.com. Please check it out. If you go to iTunes, Google, please leave us a review. Give us 5 stars. Tell us how much you love listening to the show, because it means a lot, and it helps our cause. Put it that way. So if you could do that, that would be pretty sweet. Something that's not so sweet is the topic of this show. Well, I don't know. That's not much of a segue. Maybe it is sweet depending upon your take on it, depending upon which side you're coming from on this. Let's go ahead and get to it, shall we? The episode the topic this time for this episode, I should say, the main event this time around is WWE Fact versus Fiction. And it's a very timely topic, and you'll know where I'm going with it here in just a moment. The focus I'm going to put on this is the work in the ring, what the guys have to go through, what they put their bodies through on a weekly, nightly basis for your entertainment and mine, the things they do to get over, the things they do in the ring and on the mic, and everything involved with it. We know about what's happening with Seth Rollins. He is under the eye of the microscope. More than he probably ever has been in his entire career. And that's because, of course, unless you've been living under a rock for the past week, you know that Finn Balor is injured. And yes, whether it was, irresponsible or sloppy, or it was just, bad coincidence, whatever the case may be, maybe a combination of all three, who knows. Finn Balor was injured at the hands of Seth Rollins. The new Universal Champion was forced to relinquish the belt. He's on the shelf. And recent reports say that it will not be less than 8 months. Supposedly the injury is worse than previously thought. I would not be surprised if that's WWE just putting that out there, so that way when he's back in 6 months, it's more of a surprise than before. Hopefully back in time for WrestleMania. That's my hope. And, would be able to work on the big stage, because if anybody in that company that's come up, he's got 16 years in the business. So you talk about someone that has earned the WrestleMania stage, that's definitely Finn Balor. So, of course, as we did on the last episode, we wish Finn all the best and speedy recovery, and I think he'll be just fine. But as we said, man, Seth Rollins is under the eye of the microscope. So let's go ahead and talk about this, fact versus fiction. Let's go ahead and talk about fiction. Pro wrestling is meant to hurt. Okay, that's fiction. The fact is that pro wrestling is not meant to hurt. Pro wrestling is meant to make you think it hurts. Now, do moves hurt? I've been in the ring, and I can tell you right now that depending upon who you're taking a working punch from, you can get tagged pretty good. Okay? And it, again, depends on who it is, but sometimes a working punch is just as bad as getting into an actual fist fight, depending upon who you're talking about. Some guys like to work stiff in the ring. AJ Styles is one of them. He freely admits that, he will take as hard as he gives, and he's good with that. Some guys like to work that way. Snug is another term for it. So that much is fact. But when we're talking about what pro wrestling is supposed to be, pro wrestling, my estimation, from day one, and the best way I can explain it to you is performance art. That pro wrestling is the last true American art form, and I really believe that. Whereas a lot of people believe that, baseball is America's pastime. To me, it's pro wrestling. The roots of it are here. This is where things started, and this and other countries have done extremely well with the business. I mean, New Japan in general has done very well. Mexico, of course. My God, the names that have come out of Mexico. Canada, of course. When we're talking about the nucleus of pro wrestling, and in my estimation, my opinion, what where it all comes from, and sort of the lifeblood of it is here in the States. So to me, pro wrestling is my pastime. Okay, but from day one, I've always considered it performance art. That it's, again, the last true American art form, the one true American art form. But it's not supposed to kill you. Okay. I'm not talking about what guys do to their bodies outside the ring, drugs, drinking, whatever it is they choose to get a release from, or whatever it is. Those things can kill any one of us, right? If taken in the wrong way. But I'm talking about getting killed in the ring. And we've seen two horrific examples in one night. Finn Balor goes down with injury. Randy Orton gets his skull caved in thanks to Brock Lesnar. Can I just ask you how much do you think that hurt? How much do you think it hurt when Brock Lesnar took the bone in his arm, his elbow, and drove it straight into Randy Orton's head? I mean, I want you to think about that for a second. I mean, let's say you're just an ordinary guy or gal. You're living an ordinary life. You got a 9-to-5 job, whatever it is you do for a living. You might have a family, you might not. But you live a fairly peaceful existence. Have you ever bumped your head on the cabinet or like at home? Have you ever, bumped your arm on a doorway? Have you ever stubbed your toe? I mean, of course you have. We all have, right? The pain just from hitting your head accidentally can be immense, can be like a moment where like, oh my God, I'm dying, right? Imagine doing that every night. And it's not unintentional. You go into a situation where you know you're going to get hit, where you know that it's going to hurt. And you have to learn, you have to train yourself to be okay with the pain, to be able to take the pain. Now, am I saying that it's a horror movie existence every night when you're a pro wrestler? Not necessarily. Now, if you're one of these morons that chooses to, juice every night of the week because you think you're putting on a good show, yet no one outside the building knows your name and you're never going to go anywhere, that's kind of sad. Can I be honest with you? I've always said I have respect for the men and women inside the ring, no matter what company they work for. I have no respect for people that bleed every night of the week. And especially if they're not going to go anywhere. Am I saying you should bleed every night of the week because you're trying to get to WWE? Absolutely not. Do you think that company cares? I mean, Dean Ambrose has a past, right? Blood and stuff like that. But do you think that's why they picked him up? I don't think so. WWE's not looking for that. Despite what happens with Orton, despite what happens in any other situation where blood, just sort of randomly occurs for no good reason because a guy took a punch too hard or he slipped it just could be the heat of the moment when things just, sometimes things happen, they just go wrong. But WWE, I don't believe, is looking for that. Not now. I don't know that they were ever looking for it to begin with. I think Vince McMahon is a storyteller. In addition to all the other things he may or may not be, according to his critics and his supporters alike, Vince McMahon is a storyteller. He believes in telling the story. And if blood is part of the story, then so be it. But I'm an old school guy. You have to remember. I was born and raised on the NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions. I'm used to seeing a lot of blood. I mean, I still watch those matches to this day. Is it too excessive at times? Yeah, it is. But there are moments when it was called for. Because, again, the heat of the moment, the passion of the feud, all the things that go along with suspending disbelief and drawing a crowd into the match, pulling a crowd into the match and making them believe in what they're seeing. That's what blood will do. But today, in this system, and the way things are now in the business, especially in this company, it's such a shock to the system. Do you know what I mean? That I think it sort of takes the fan out of the moment. It's sort of unsettling, especially what happened to Randy. It's very unsettling. It makes you sort of, you kind of lose your place in the match, and suddenly it becomes less about, God, Brock and Randy. Then all of a sudden it becomes, oh my God, what? Because, again, you didn't expect it. So Brock Lesnar draws blood the hard way on Randy, and now we're sitting here talking about this stuff. Finn Balor gets hurt at the hands of Seth Rollins. Now we're sitting here talking about whether Seth Rollins is safe or not. Okay? But again, to get back to the point here, pro wrestling is performance art, and blood has been an integral part of it through the past years, but not so much now. And we have to say not so much now because WWE represents pro wrestling to most of the people in this country. Okay, now there are plenty of fans like myself out there who watch Lucha Underground, who know Ring of Honor and TNA, who watch New Japan, who are very familiar with other wrestling promotions, not just in this country, but all over the world, and understand that pro wrestling is much more than WWE. But you ask the average guy on the street right now, what's pro wrestling? Tell me the name of a pro wrestling company. They're probably going to say either WWE or WWF because that's what they know. And that is the face of pro wrestling. If they don't know the name, they'll know the name WrestleMania. You know what I'm saying? They'll know the name Hulk Hogan. Stone Cold Steve Austin, probably. Randy Savage, probably. Do you see where I'm going with this? So that's the company that everyone knows. So when WWE sets a precedent one way or the other, that sort of becomes the example that everyone is looking at. It becomes what everyone knows. And fans in this country have been conditioned to live without blood, have been conditioned to live without chair shots to the head, have been conditioned to live with, TVPG, if I'm being honest with you. WWE pushes the envelope, but that's sort of what we're talking about here. So let me throw another fact at you. Is it fact or fiction? Pro wrestlers are trying to take care of each other. This is sticky for me, okay? Because as we talked about working snug, and working stiff sometimes, depending on who the guy is. Working snug is fine. Okay, stiffing to the point where by the end of the match, you get back to the locker room and you're looking at the guy that you just worked and said, dude, are you trying to freaking kill me out there? What is going on? You see what I'm saying? That's a different thing altogether. Now, there's a lot of ego in pro wrestling. Trust me, I know this. There's a lot of ego in pro wrestling. And the last thing you want to be known as is the guy that couldn't take a fight. The guy that got back in the dressing room and looked at your opponent and said, you're killing me. Don't do this to me anymore. This hurt. You sound like a wimp, like someone that can't take a beating. Because, man, I've been in locker rooms before where I saw an absolute, a near barroom brawl break out in the ring because there was a personal issue between two guys. And as soon as they got back through the curtain, it was a polite handshake, thanks for the match. When I knew, and I knew both guys, and I knew that they really didn't like each other. I mean, straight up, the reason that it was almost a bar fight was because one guy was trying to make a point to the other guy. He wasn't happy. But for the sake of the business, for the sake of staying civil, for the sake of keeping the peace, I guess, as it were, they chose to end the match on a handshake in the dressing room, and they left it at that. Now, when they get outside, they go to the bar, they hang out with the other guys, or they go home to their family, they'll rant and rave and, let off some steam about, this guy this and that guy that. But wrestling can be very therapeutic. You can work out a lot of your problems and issues in the ring. But the deal is you don't work them out to the detriment of the guy that you're supposed to be taking care of. So, yes, it's fact. You're supposed to be taking care of the guy that you're wrestling. You know what the lockup is, right? When two guys lock up, because you've got one man's hand on the back of the neck of each guy. The other hand should be in the bend of the arm on the other guy. Move the hands in a bit different direction, and it looks like they're getting ready to dance. Do you want to know why? Because pro wrestling is a dance. That's what pro wrestling is, okay? If you want to understand the mechanics of it, if you want to understand how things are supposed to work, pro wrestling is a dance. When you dance with someone, is your goal to step on that person's feet? When you're dancing with your girl, or girls, if you're dancing with your guy, you're supposed to step on the person's feet. Are you supposed to make them uncomfortable? Are they supposed to have a bad time? By the end of the dance, are they supposed to look at you and say, dude, what was that? That was embarrassing. That's pro wrestling, man. That's what pro wrestling is. It's a dance. Because when you dance with someone, your intention is not to step on their toes. Your intention is to not physically hurt them. You want to have fun. You want to go through this dance, through this entire song. And you want to let the other person lead sometimes, then you lead as well, okay? And you let the other person have their moments, you have your moment. You spin them around, or they spin you around, or whatever the case may be, okay? By the end of the dance, you look at each other and you say, that was sweet. I had fun. Let's do that again. That's pro wrestling. It's no secret that they're very similar things to do. Dancing and pro wrestling, very similar things to do. That's what pro wrestling is. The object of the game is to protect your opponent, is to keep each other safe. It's not about going out there and saying, I'm the toughest guy in this locker room, and by God, I'm going to prove it to everybody tonight. Not everyone is Vader. I have mixed feelings about Vader, and I got to be careful how loud I say this because, he'll want to, hit me in the face. But I have mixed feelings about Vader because it's one thing to be a tough guy in the ring. It's one thing to, sit there and say, well, I have to go out there and I have to make it look good. The fans paid good money to see a fight, and I'm going to give them one. It's another thing to bring it so hardcore that the guy you worked can't walk the next day. Now, is it his fault that he can't walk the next day? Is it his fault that you hurt him? Well, he can't take a beating. If he can't take a beating, he shouldn't be in the business. Because, man, back in the day, when you walked into a company, and you couldn't get in unless you had a connection or unless you just found your way in, you went and said, I want to be a pro wrestler. What'd they do? They put you in the ring and they stretched you for 20 minutes. They blew you up, right? Made you sweat buckets. They hurt you. Hulk Hogan's always told the story of the first time he got in the ring, they put him in a step over toe hole and broke his leg and said, get out of here. He came back when he healed up. You see what I'm saying? Because that was how pro wrestling was. It's how the business was at the time. It was about, well, you want to be here, we don't want you here. Okay, so they did everything in their power to get you out, which is, again, I'm old school, but I'm not so old school that I believe that that's the right thing to do. I don't believe that's the right thing to do. So that's not what we're looking at today. Guys today, are they more pampered than they were before? Probably, yes. Is it easier now than it was before? I don't think so. You might not have those shooters around like Ole Anderson and guys like that who would, lock you up and keep you on the mat for 20 minutes, breathing hard, and you can't get out, and you get so frustrated you quit. Or worse, they break your arm or break your leg or hurt you. Because if you walked in that day and you said, I want to be a pro wrestler, and they put you in the ring and stretched you, man, you might have had a job before you stepped in that ring. You could have had a wife and kid at home. But guess what? Can't work now because they've hurt you. So now you gotta miss work for 6 weeks or whatever it is. Do you see what a big deal that is? So no, I don't believe those things should be happening. Are the wrestlers pampered today in WWE? Yeah, I believe they probably are. Is that a bad thing? I didn't say it was a bad thing. Conor McGregor runs his mouth about the guys in WWE not being tough. They're not legitimate tough guys, right? That they're a bunch of, well, you know what he said, but they're all wimps and they can't take a beating and this, that, and the other. Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack tells Miz he looks like he's afraid to take a punch. He wrestles like he's afraid to take a punch. All these things are coming to light. WWE is responding in kind. And the way a wrestling promotion responds to any kind of heat outside of its four walls is by putting it in the ring. And that's been the case for WWE for years. Is whenever there's heat, whenever there's a story, whenever there's news, whenever there's something that directly, it directly involves WWE, they're going to put it in the ring. That's what Vince does. Vince has always done that. It's not going to stop now. You guys know that, right? It's not going to stop now. It's never going to stop, okay? So they've put all these things in the ring. They brought all this stuff to light. They're asking questions on WWE.com. Did Seth intentionally, blah, 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 whatever it is. Dude, this is where fact versus fiction becomes very blurred thanks to the pro wrestling company in question. Because it's their job to blur the lines between fact and fiction. It's what they do. A pro wrestling promoter's job is to lie to you. A pro wrestler's job is to work you. That's what they both do. It's essentially the same thing. But that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to work you. They're supposed to lie to you. You're supposed to fall for everything that they say because, they're working you 6 ways from Sunday. That's how it is. Because, the minute they start telling you the truth, you start losing interest. I mean, back in the day, no one wanted to hear that pro wrestling was a work. You didn't want to know the mechanics of it. Now people just can't wait to talk about how a match works. We're doing it right now. I mean, you see how much the business has changed? It's crazy. But fact versus fiction, again, what is today's WWE? What should pro wrestling be? Pro wrestling should be a dance between the two competitors involved in which they're trying to take care of each other. Now, question, why is it indeed so important to take care of each other? It's very simple. Because the next night you have to wrestle again. Get that? The next night you have to wrestle again. Tomorrow night's a different town with a different set of fans, with a different storyline maybe, but the same rivalry, but a different chapter. Okay? You have to wrestle again. Tomorrow night's Raw, or tomorrow night's SmackDown, or tomorrow night is, NXT, whatever the case may be. You have another show to go to. Okay? It's a house show that will not get on tape except for fans in the crowd with their phones filming it, whatever it is. Okay? You have to get into the ring the next night. You know what that means when you have to get into the ring the next night? That means that the night before you can't get killed in the ring. It's about taking care of each other so you can get home that night or get to the hotel that night, try to get a few hours sleep, get back on the road the next day, do it all again the next night. And guess what happens that night? Take care of each other again. Don't kill each other again because guess what? The night after, you got to go wrestle again. It's important. It's very important. It's the most important aspect of the business. You have to take care of your opponent. Because I tell you this right now, and this is how it is. When you have a guy that does not take care of his opponent, he gets the reputation of being too hard. He hits too hard. He's too snug. He takes it too far. Here's what's going to happen. Guys are not going to want to work him. Okay? And if you do have a guy that wants to work him, he's going to get in the ring and try to outdo him. He's going to shoot on him first. He's going to set the tone to say, hey, I'm the toughest guy in here, or you're not going to get away with this, or a combination of both. Then you have two grown men in the ring who were supposed to be engaging in performance art, now trying to bash each other's heads in. And then the next night, they can't work a match. That's not good. It's not safe. It's dangerous for everyone involved. Okay? So the idea, the thought behind pro wrestling, no matter what company you're talking about, should be that each guy's trying to take care of the other. And if that's not the thought, guess what? You're doing it wrong. It's not working. And once it doesn't work, the whole thing falls apart. Okay? You have to know what pro wrestling is in order to be able to do it right to begin with. Okay? Pro wrestling is about telling a story. What story is being told when Randy Orton looks like he was just pulled out of a car wreck? Okay, fact versus fiction again, okay? Is it fact or fiction that Randy Orton was intentionally busted up? Well, dude, it's fact. Of course he was intentionally busted up. Was the intention to give him 10 staples in his head? Absolutely not, okay? The intention, more than likely, was to get the blood flowing and then stop. But the thing is, Brock doesn't really have a slowdown button. Okay? He doesn't. There's no such thing as, half speed for Brock Lesnar or half power. There's speculation online that maybe Brock is not really a wrestler anymore. Maybe he's an MMA guy and that's all he should be at this point because he busted Randy up. First of all, let's go back to the initial point. Randy knew he was going to get busted up. He probably didn't know he was going to get busted up to that degree, but you're Randy Orton. You've got all these years in the business. You're one of WWE's top guys. You are a guaranteed Hall of Famer. And you're going to sit there and complain because you got color against Brock Lesnar, who, by the way, is not a full-time WWE superstar. He's already got the reputation of coming in, getting a payday, and then getting out again. You're one of WWE's mainstays. You're going to complain. So the rest of the guys hear you complaining? Of course not. Of course you're not going to do that. You're going to take the beating like a man. You're going to keep your mouth shut. You're going to go on to the next show the next night with a massive headache, which is what he did. And kudos to him, because, brother, I would have been crying like a little girl. Are you kidding me right now? Brock Lesnar draws color from this guy. That'd be the last main event you ever hear. That's the truth, man. So I'll be, Jesus, they'll be putting me in the ground, fool. You're kidding me? That's crazy. Oh, I can't even think about it. But no, Randy's not going to do that, obviously. He's going to pick himself up, clean himself up, get stitched up, stapled up, and then go to the next show the next night, which is what he did, and that's what he does. That's what he does. That's what a pro wrestler does. He's got to keep going. He can't stop. Here's my take on Brock. And we'll get to Seth here in a minute, but my take on Brock is that Brock hasn't forgotten how to wrestle. Brock hasn't forgotten what it's like to be an entertainer in the ring, to be a pro wrestler. He hasn't forgotten what it's like to pull the punches and throw a working punch. He hasn't forgotten. But Brock, the hype around Brock is that he's a combat sports guy. He's the baddest man that ever walked the planet, especially when it comes to combat sports. No one's bigger, no one's badder, no one's better. It's not just a tagline. It's not just hype. It's not just something for Paul Heyman to say in a promo. This is the truth. Because I'm going to tell you something. When you've got a company full of people, saying the same things about you, going with the same hype and the same promo, and you got one of your best friends in the world standing there shouting these promos by your side about you, and you've got fans talking it up and guys like me podcasting about it and writing columns on it, and you got dirt sheets speculating on all this stuff. Do you know what's going to eventually happen? You're going to start buying into it. What was just a character, what was just a role that you were given to play, is going to become true to life. When he says this is not a game for him, that this is the real deal for him, dude, he means it. So you've got a Brock Lesnar who has bought into his own hype at this point. And I'm not saying he shouldn't. He's Brock Lesnar. That's like telling Muhammad Ali he shouldn't buy into his own hype. Muhammad Ali was the greatest. That's like telling Flair he never should have been in character, that he never should have, that as soon as the camera gets cut off, he becomes soft-spoken. And thank you for your time, guys. I really appreciate it. You'll see you good folks tomorrow night. You guys drive safe now, okay? All right, thanks. That's not Flair. You have to live it. You have to buy into your own hype. That's what pro wrestlers do. I'm not dissing Brock for that, because number one, I don't want to get punched in the face, and I sure don't want to get elbowed to the head. But second of all, I don't blame him. But what I'm saying to you is that you can buy in to the point of it becoming a problem, not just for you, but for the guys you work. And eventually the fans no longer see a pro wrestler. They see, well, what you want them to see. They see a Terminator. They see a complete, cold-blooded serial killer in the ring, which is what Brock has become. And WWE, and I've said this for so long. I've said it since 2012, to be honest with you. But I keep saying it. I probably will always say WWE has painted itself into a corner with Brock Lesnar. They're the ones that have allowed all this stuff to happen to begin with, man. You guys know that, right? They're the ones that have allowed all this to happen to begin with. They're the ones that have come out and said, okay, we want Brock to be this guy. We want him to be this beast. We want him to be this killer. We want him to be this guy who comes in, takes a massive payday, and he's the prize fighter. That's what they want. They want Brock to come in, leave a broken trail of bodies in his wake, and go back to his farm in, is it Iowa? Canada, excuse me. Go back to his farm in Canada and keep toiling in the fields. Getting back to nature. And that's what they want. This is not like Brock has come in of his own accord, like MMA, where he just comes in and acts the way he wants to act, does and says what he wants to do and say. This is WWE. If they wanted to, they could put a stop to this. They don't want to. Why would they want to? You guys are missing the point. They don't want to. They want Brock to be this vicious. They want this guy to be on their TV. Okay? And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't doubt at some point that somebody in that company didn't, in a very quiet whisper, say, I'm glad he got in trouble in UFC because we need him here. Do you know what I'm saying? Let that spin around in your craw, as we say down south. Just go ahead and think about that for a while, man, because that right there, that'll tell you all you need to know about Brock Lesnar, is that this is the kind of guy we're talking about. This is a guy who, again, comes in, does what he wants, takes what he wants, and then leaves again. Okay? That's the truth about Brock Lesnar. He's bought into his own hype. That's a fact. Okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about Seth Rollins, or maybe a lot of bit. We'll see what the conversation takes us. Fact versus fiction. Seth Rollins is unsafe in the ring. Okay, well, funny you should ask that, because yours truly has just published a new piece for Sportskeeda. And guess what the title is? Is Seth Rollins irresponsible in the ring? Because Seth Rollins may be the man that it be, but his reputation for being careless is growing more and more. We can agree on that, right? This sucker was just recently published. Please go check it out. It's one of the key talking points of this episode if you haven't already figured that out. But is he unsafe? Because he's got his critics, Bret the Hitman Hart is one of them, who's come out publicly in a quote and said that he's unsafe. And, hate to say I told you so, but I told you so, because he came out about when Seth, hurt Sting, and he hurt John, and now he's hurt Finn. And you've got those three guys. I mean, you've got the top guy, a legend, the WWE Hall of Famer, and you've got the hottest guy in the industry in Finn Balor. And Seth put all of them on the shelf. Isn't that something? That's a big deal, man. So is Seth Rollins unsafe in the ring? Fact or fiction? Is it fact or fiction? Seth Rollins is irresponsible. He's dangerous in the ring. Well, guess what's happening on Twitter as we speak? Seth's already putting over the fact that he's dangerous. He's getting questioned. So what else do you do as the top heel in the company? You go on Twitter and you talk about it and you push it, right? Which is what he's doing. He's using that to his advantage. Either he's doing it of his own accord or he's being told to by WWE, or a combination of both. It's a smart move. It's a smart thing to do. But once again, the lines between fact and reality are being blurred because of all this. WWE, what did we say earlier, man? WWE takes a situation. WWE has taken the heat from this whole thing surrounding Seth and Brock, and they're using it to their advantage, because that's what you do. There's no such thing as bad publicity. So when you take heat, when you take negativity out there and you spin it to turn into something positive, you feel like, as a company, and I can tell you for sure, Vince McMahon WWE feels this way, that it's working toward their benefit. Because they're like, why should we run from it? Why should we hide what fans are saying, hide from it, and act like it doesn't exist? I mean, they're not hiding from it. Because WWE is an odd mix of, it's an odd mix of sports entertainment and zombified kayfabe. Do you know what I mean? Like they've done everything in their power to kill kayfabe, and then somehow they try to resurrect it in one match after another one, storyline after another, when in reality, it's just zombified. We all know it's not live anymore. You're just, it's just kind of walking around like the walkers are in Walking Dead, and they're just kind of wandering the streets and killing everything that any human that they come across. It's kind of the same deal. You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately for us, unfortunately for old school guys like myself who love the business, who are old school, who love the days when kayfabe reigns supreme, kayfabe is a non-existent thing these days. And anytime WWE tries to go back to pushing kayfabe after they're the ones that put the gun to the head of kayfabe and pulled the trigger and laughed about it the whole time, okay, then we can't buy in. It's almost impossible to buy in. You can't buy into, well, suddenly this is real. Suddenly this really happens. Suddenly you should believe in this. Suddenly you should hate this guy because he really did this. Yeah, but he spent all week on Instagram or on Twitter hanging out with guys that he just wrestled 2 weeks ago and having friendly conversations, and and backstage photos pop up online, and he gives interviews outside WWE where he's out of character and he's a nice guy, and you're like, what am I seeing? Do you see what I mean? So going back to Seth, is it fact or fiction? That here's the problem with the Seth Rollins question, as I'm referring to it, the Seth Rollins issue perhaps is a better way to describe it. We don't really know yet. Okay, we don't really know yet. And I point this out in the column, and to me, it's sort of, proof positive that there's a very huge disconnect between the fans and the company itself. Because to believe that ordinary pro wrestling fans that have never been in the ring and could have more meaningful opinions than those held by the boys themselves is nothing short of ludicrous. Yet every time Bret Hart, Hall of Famer, former WWE champion, remember that guy, 23 years in the business? Every time Bret Hart opened his mouth about John Cena or Sting, he was accused of being a bitter old man. Is that really the case, or were fans too quick to criticize him? No one knows whether or not Seth is unsafe in the ring unless it's Seth or the guys immediately around him. And that's the truth. If you haven't been in the ring, if you've never taken a bump, if you've never delivered a finisher, if you've never laced up the boots or done a lockup or done anything at all between the ropes, you really are not qualified to say whether or not Seth is dangerous. If the perception is that he's dangerous, well, guess what? That's bad for WWE because perception is reality, right? So fans assume that they're dangerous, that Seth is dangerous. Fans assume that he's bad news. So guess what's going to happen? That's going to be what's said about him, and that's going to be what people believe is that he's dangerous. So that's not good for the company. That's bad for business, right? And that's the fact of the matter. But you don't know. And if you guys have been in the ring and you have an opinion, I'd love to hear it. I've been in the ring myself. Do I think Seth is unsafe in the ring? I don't think he is. But what I do believe is that Seth Rollins is so beholden to the current WWE style. And honestly, if you're going to talk about what Seth Rollins is the architect of, then you'd have to say that Seth Rollins is the architect, one of the architects of this WWE style that we see today, where guys are not really pro wrestlers anymore, they're stuntmen, where it's an action movie taking place inside of the squared circle instead of it being an actual pro wrestling match, where it becomes a stunt show and it's high risk and high impact and high spots from the time the bell rings to the time the bell rings at the end of the match, and that's just the way it is. And dude, for my money, I want the pro wrestling back. I don't want the stunt shows anymore. Sami Zayn comes back the day after, or the day after he's cleared to return to compete medically in WWE from that huge injury he had. He's flipping over the ropes and through the ropes and diving backwards and diving somersaults and off the top rope and backwards and forwards. And I'm like, dude, you just came back. When Daniel Bryan first came back, do you remember when he had the spot in the ring? Was it against Kane? That he did the running, knee in the corner and all the, 100 miles an hour. I was literally at home holding my breath. Now, I didn't have any inside information. I didn't have anybody inside WWE like some of these dirt sheets do or claim to have or whatever it is. Our source at WWE says this. When really it's just a copy and paste job, or it's some doofus just kind of throwing his best guess out there. Who knows about that? So I didn't know that WWE was sort of sitting back, hoping and praying for the best, that nothing bad was going to happen. I didn't know any of that, but I'll tell you this, as a guy that saw Daniel Bryan on the shelf and wanted him to come back and knew his history of injury and his potential to get hurt again, I was very concerned. And I sat back and watched him going 100 miles an hour as he did before, and I said to myself, dude, I cannot believe that he is still doing this. I cannot believe that he is still going 100 miles an hour. Has he not learned a thing? The same for Cesaro. These guys get hurt, and it's 100 miles an hour. And I think I covered a lot of this on the show on episode number 59, so excuse me for that if some of this is being a little bit repetitive. But when guys do moves just to pop the crowd, there's something wrong. And I'm not saying you shouldn't pop the crowd, but you should pop the crowd as part of telling the story in the ring. WWE superstars don't do that these days. And here's the problem I have. A good number of guys in NXT are doing that style as well. So by the time they get up to the main roster, guess what? They're going to be doing the same thing that the guys we're talking about today right now are doing as well. So where does it end? It has to end from the top down. Things have to change from the top down. And by the top down, I mean Triple H. Vince McMahon's the boss, I get it, but Triple H is the guy that's been in the ring. He's the guy that can directly relate to these boys and girls. And they respect him and they love him to death, and they should. But he's the guy that can come into a gigantic team huddle, doing one show at a time, whatever it is, say, listen, guys, got to start slowing down. I'm not saying don't make it look good. I'm not saying give the fans, give the crowd their money's worth what they paid for. I'm not suggesting that. But we need you guys to start getting healthy again. We can't function when half of our main event roster is on the shelf. They just went through that. They just came back from that. Now, Finn Balor, the hottest prospect that company has had, I would say, since Daniel Bryan. Maybe before, if we're being honest. Maybe since Punk. Who knows? But he's on the shelf now, and he's not coming back anytime soon. And it's bad for business. WWE is going to be hurting now. I don't know if you could almost, and this is all due respect to Magnum. I mean, no disrespect to Magnum at all. Magnum TA was one of my favorites of all time. But it reminds me of the Magnum TA situation where he was on the eve of doing something great, and then the difference is, of course, he lost his career. Now, no one wants to see Finn lose his career, obviously. We all want to see Finn come back. But do I need to see Finn come back in such a hardcore physical style, smash mouth? Now, Finn does a lot of stuff off the top rope. I mean, obviously, his stuff is high impact. If I'm being straight with you, in years of watching Finn, in my opinion, and maybe this is splitting hairs. I mean, you have to decide for yourself what you think and believe on this deal. But in my opinion, Finn Balor's style is sort of a slowed down version of the WWE style. I mean, it can be hectic and chaotic as the rest of the guys are at times, but from what I've seen, Finn is a pretty safe guy. I don't know if I can say that about all the guys coming up right now. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the idea is we got to give it to them. We got to get in the bang pow. We got to get in there. We got to make it rain. We got to make it look good, man. We got to go hardcore 100%. We got to go 100 miles an hour. We can't leave nothing to the imagination. It's like watching a porn versus, looking at a lingerie magazine. There's nothing left to the imagination. They give everything to you straight up in your face, and they're loud and proud. They don't care. And it's like watching a pay-per-view every time you watch matches on Raw. Well, then what's so special about the pay-per-view? If you're going to do this stuff every time WWE is on TV, then what's so special about it? Nothing. And if you give me all this stuff right now, what are you going to have to give me tomorrow besides limping down the aisle because you've hurt yourself or the other guys hurt you or whatever the case may be? I mean, to me, the style has got to change. And until the style is tweaked, something's got to change. Now, fact or fiction? Fact or fiction? Ready? Is it fact or fiction that fans demand this style? Here's my answer. I don't know. You could sit back and say that fans are spoiled with this style. This is what we expect is this style now. But if it was taken away tomorrow, if it all stopped tomorrow, if we went back to the ground and pound, slow pace, methodical pro wrestling match where two guys are working each other on the mat, matching move for move, would the crowd start chanting boring? Would everything go to hell in a handbasket? Would people start getting up, go to the restrooms, or demand their money back? Would they be raising hell on the dirt sheets the next day? Would they be, going insane and demanding that WWE change? They would never watch again. And, it's just not as fun as it used to be. It's not as exciting as it used to be. I don't know. Do you want to know why I don't know? Because we're not going to be able to find out. because you're talking about something that's just pure speculation. You can't speculate on the absolutes. And the absolute for me in this situation, this is the WWE style. Now, they can say all day long that this is done in response to making fans happy, that the fans pop off these moves. It's important to wrestle this way because we want to entertain the crowd and keep them happy. My answer to that is, don't you want to keep your stars safe and healthy? Tell the story. You cut all these promos every week on TV, backstage segments, interviews on WWE.com, on YouTube. Dude, integrate that into the live show. Get the story told. That way, when they get in the ring, they don't have to commit murder. They don't have to kill each other. It's not about, you watch a pro wrestling match, it's like watching Evel Knievel, jump the canyon. Dude, come on. What? You don't need to do that. That's the key between WWE and everything else that we're talking about here. They apparently, and I say apparently because I don't know, I'll be honest with you, they evidently feel that they have to work this style. Their guys have to deliver this style or fans are going to be rioting. Dude, I just don't believe that. Now, am I right? I don't have any idea because, again, there's no way to prove me wrong or right unless WWE makes a change. But you mark my words. If this doesn't stop, if the style is not pared down, if it's not tweaked to some extent, then someone is going to get seriously hurt. Bret Hart said that someone's probably going to get killed. Is he the bitter old man? Since when is all the hate in the world being levied at Bret Hart because he criticizes WWE? If any one of us should be able to criticize WWE, shouldn't it be the WWE Hall of Famer? I mean, be honest. Get over your personal dislike for the Hitman for 2 seconds and remember who the Hitman is. Okay, he main evented matches all over the world. And now you're going to tell him to his face or around him or whatever it is that he's full of crap? Dude, who's full of crap in this scenario, you or him? Be honest, man. Now, is he bitter about things? I don't have any idea. I could say yes, but dude, I don't know. I don't know what he has to gain by any of this because let's be honest, they've brought him back. They've given him time on TV. If he wanted to get on TV with a microphone in his hand and shoot, he could have. He respects... I was going to say he respects the business too much, but then I think back about when he wanted to take Tyler with him and not drop it to Sean in Montreal. So that's a whole other can of worms. But, a lot of us have moved past that, so just let it go. But again, my point is, why should we not listen to what Bret Hart has to say? But we want to go listen to the guy on the dirt sheet who we just love to listen to his podcast. So that guy's more right than Bret Hart. Just take a minute, calm yourself down. Forget who you hate and who you like or whatever, and take everything into consideration. Because the piece I wrote for Sportskeeda, I tried to be as unbiased as possible. But, dude, it's time that the company start taking a real hard look at what's going on in the ring. And I'm going to tell you this. If you think they're not, I think that you're probably out of your mind. Because, you have to know the company sees this. A lot of these guys and gals have wives and husbands at home and kids who depend on them. And, a lot of these guys are not even 30 years old. Some of these guys are not even 30 years old yet. And if they are, they're early 30s, okay? And, they want to work to maybe they're 50. You know what I'm saying? Maybe beyond. If their bodies can take it, how can their bodies take it? Do you see what I'm saying? Sting went through a career full of high-risk moves. I mean, Sting used to come off the top quite a bit. Now, could you say that Sting wrestled the WWE style? I don't believe he did. I didn't see it in his game. I saw the mat-based pro wrestling where his character told the story, okay? And Sting's in his 50s, man, and he had a long career, and if it's over and he never wrestles again, he can be proud of what he accomplished, and fans can be proud of him. His boys can be proud of him. And I think that's awesome. He sets foot in the ring with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins kills him, okay? But, again, am I saying it's Seth's fault? I don't think Seth is... Of course, just grow up for a second and get over yourselves and understand this. If you really believe that Seth Rollins is intentionally hurting anyone, I don't think you understand what pro wrestling is. So really, you're a lost cause. Seth Rollins is not intentionally hurting anyone. Seth Rollins is wrestling the style, which, by the way, recently on a podcast, and forgive me for not remembering who said this, supposedly that when he was in NXT, WWE was trying to get him to slow down, and Seth said, no, I'm not going to slow down. This is my style. You'll kill me if I change my style. Well, guess what? Part of Seth's style, the majority of Seth's style, is the WWE style, okay? And you feel like, again, I hate to call it a stunt show because it brings back memories of Flair calling McFoley a stuntman. So it's no disrespect to any of the boys in the locker room. I feel like they feel like that they're wrestling what works for them, and their style works for them. That this is our style. This is WWE. We bring it. This is who we are. This is what we do. So I can't very well sit here and bag on any of these guys or gals. Sasha's out again. It's not just the men. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So it's everyone involved has the potential to get hurt or has been hurt or could be hurt tomorrow. Dude, that's a big deal. It's a massive big deal, man, for everybody involved. So, again, no disrespect intended to anyone, but I really, truly believe it's time for WWE to take a hard, strong, long look at this and decide what's going to happen because, in the realm of, and by the way, this may not be the only episode of Fact versus Fiction. I kind of like this. It's kind of cool, actually. So maybe we'll do another one at some point. Maybe not a part 2. Well, hell, yeah, you know what? Just call it part 2. Do like a 30-part series. Just stay tuned, folks. The next 30 episodes will be action-packed. But but in the world of fact versus fiction, the lines are getting blurred in WWE. Been blurred for years, getting worse now. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's not such a good thing. But I think, again, that company has to take a long, hard look at its talent, what these guys are doing, what they're not doing, because, man, at some point, things are going to have to start changing. Because as a fan, I don't want to see these guys hurt. I don't care who it is. I could care less who we're talking about. There's some guys I don't care for on a professional level because, I don't know them personally, obviously. But some guys in the business I know personally. A lot of guys in WWE I do not know on a personal level. So I can't sit here and bash them like that, and I wouldn't want to anyway. So from a professional standpoint, even if I don't like them, I don't want to see them hurt. And no one wants to see them hurt. When you have, either Raw or SmackDown with like 10 legit stars and 5 of them are on the shelf, dude, really? How is that good for any of us? It's not. It's not good for business. It's not good for WWE. It's not good for fans. It's not good for the boys involved with the guys they were supposed to work tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like being a college recruit and you find out and you sort of get reeled in. Maybe reeled in is the wrong term, but you're courted. You're courted by the school and the coach, and you fall in love with the coach, and you say, man, I want to play for this guy. I can't wait to get there. The day after you sign, they fire the coach. So now this guy that was going to help you get to the next level, help you improve your game is gone. And to me, it's sort of the same deal when guys in WWE go down because Finn was on his way up. I mean, who could he have worked with that could have helped him or he could have helped? We won't know now for another 8 months. So that's a big deal. And, again, it's such a tough topic because we're talking about a lot of things that we don't really understand, that we don't really know. And again, unless you've been in the ring yourself, it's going to be hard to know any of this stuff. It really, truly is. So unfortunately for us, we just have to go based off of emotion, based off of speculation, based off of what we believe should or should not happen in a pro wrestling ring, what should or should not happen in WWE. And, we wish the best on all these guys and gals. And again, man, if you don't, you're doing this for the wrong reason. You're watching for the wrong reason. You're listening to me for the wrong reason. Hopefully we're educating you. That's what we do, man. That's what we try to do all the time. That's what the main event's all about. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the very near future. I like Seth. I never said I disliked him. I do like the guy. I think he's come a long way since the days of Ring of Honor. And I feel like he's got, the transition from Tyler Black to what we see today is pretty massive, pretty important. He's really coming to his own. But again, on a professional standpoint, dude, something has got to be done because I think at least the questions have to be asked, okay? Even if WWE doesn't want to sound the alarm and go as hardcore and intense in the coverage as we are on the pro wrestling sites and writers and analysts like myself, fine. But at least ask the question. And you know that they are. They must be. So, there you have it. Well, what'd you think? That was episode number 60. I can't believe it's already over, man. I kept sitting here checking the time sporadically, and oh my God, already over. Isn't that something? Well, listen, we hope you enjoyed it. 60 in the can, man. I can't wait to do 60 more. Looking forward to it. Let's go ahead and plug our stuff before we sign off for the day. If you liked the material that you heard today, if you liked the topics of conversation, here's how you can look this stuff up. go to Bleacher Report. That's where yours truly has been writing since 2010. I'm 6 years strong. I'm loving every minute of it. Please go check me out on Bleacher Report. I'm a WWE featured columnist. Also, go to Sportskeeda. The column about Seth Rollins was published there just very recently. Please go check that out as well. Go to the highly esteemed Camel Clutch blog. You can find me there. You can also find my wrestling blog, tomclarkbr.wix.com/blog. If you enjoy the podcast that you listen to today and hopefully subscribed and downloaded and reviewed on iTunes, Google Play, and everywhere else we're available full, then you can do more of the same with our sister podcasts. We have two of them. The first one is Tom Clark's 30-Minute Fun Show, which features myself and my soon-to-be 8-year-old son, Wesley. We're having a blast doing it. We're 9 episodes in. Hope you've been following it and enjoying it. We're having a blast doing it, and my kid loves it, so that's why I do it. It's pretty fun stuff. Please go check that out on iTunes, Google Play as well. Please leave a review. The third podcast in the trinity of podcasts here under the Boink Studios banner is Tom and Kyle's Comedy Action Hour. Yes, it's been several months since we've done a show. I continue to plug it. Please go back and listen to the episodes. I mean, there's some evergreen stuff in there, not very much outdated. So go back and check it out because Kyle and I have fun when we get to hang out, we get to talk, man. We just don't get to do it that often because, life beckons. Life calls, and sometimes I can't tell you how many times we've set up to record and things just came up that night. So it happens. But please go check it out. We're going to get a new episode up at some point. Please bear with us, and we do appreciate your business as always. The Boink Studios website, all the material on this website is written by yours truly. The website address is tomclarkbr.wix.com/boink. You can also find Boink Studios on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. Please follow Boink Studios on Twitter at Boink Studios. If you would like to get in touch with any one of us that works under the Boink Studios banner, please do so. BoinkStudios@yahoo.com. Okay. Kyle Smith, that I just mentioned, he did the artwork on Tom and Kyle's Comedy Action Hour. The artwork that's on the Boink Studios website and Boink Studios Facebook page and Twitter is done by Kyle as well. He is available for freelance work. Just hit us up and we will hook you up with him. How about that? We also have in the fold a man by the name of Philip Fender. He does all the music on all three podcasts. Very talented musician. He is available for freelance work as well. Again, just drop us a line at boinkstudios@yahoo.com. I think we've plugged everything. It's always a mouthful at the end of the show. But we get it done, man. That's all that matters, right? 60 episodes, man. It's been a blast. It's been fun bringing this to you. We do hope you've enjoyed it. We are going to come back very soon with episode number 61. Please stay tuned for that. Please continue to check us out on social media. Please continue to follow us. Keep the emails coming. We do appreciate all the glowing reviews and the support. I can't tell you the number of reviews, like emails I got in the past week, like last week, literally like 12 to 15 emails from you guys. So, man, listen, keep them coming. It's very cool stuff, man. We really appreciate it. And I continue to be knocked out by the reaction that we get. So, again, thank you for your business. Thanks for your patrons. We do appreciate you coming along for the ride. Please follow us on all of our social media sites and go read my stuff. And again, it is always greatly appreciated. This has been episode number 60 of The Main Event. We will be back soon. You be sure you join us as well. Come back real soon for the next episode of The Main Event. We will see you next time on Tom Clark's Main Event.